If I told you that even the easiest births in the world puts 40 to 90 pounds of pulling force on your baby's delicate neck and brainstem, wouldn't you want their nervous system checked? Because here's what most pediatricians will never tell you: birth trauma isn't just from complicated deliveries, it's happening to nearly every baby born today. And the signs parents are told are normal are actually red flags that the nervous system is stuck in distress. So let me tell you about a baby named Brooks. Brooks was born at 37 weeks via C-section after a very emotional and stressful end to his mom's pregnancy. From day one, Brooks had severe colic, constant spit up, and a dairy intolerance that made feeding a nightmare. Now, his parents were all told the same thing that most parents hear: it's just normal baby stuff. He's going to grow out of it. But here's what they did differently, because they already had experience with neurologically focused chiropractic care for their other kiddos. They brought Brooks to us immediately after he was released from the hospital. Now, his insight scans revealed exactly what we expected: massive stress patterns within the upper neck and the brainstem region. And this is the exact region responsible for his digestion, his sleep, and his nervous system regulation. And it's the same region that gets the most trauma during birth. And after 3 gentle adjustments, using no more pressure than you'd use to test an avocado or a tomato at the store, Brooks began spitting up less, and his crying spells decreased significantly. But fast forward today, Brooks is a thriving toddler. No more dairy intolerance. He's sleeping great, digesting well. His immune system is strong and no longer overstimulated by every transition. His parents didn't wait for him to grow out of it. They addressed the root cause, specifically nervous system dysfunction from birth trauma. And that gave Brooks the neurological foundation that he needed to thrive and develop. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Parents, birth is traumatic to the brain and to the nervous system. And I want to be very clear. When we say birth trauma, we're not just talking about emergency C-sections or forceps and vacuums. We're talking about the physical reality of every birth. So here are the facts. Even in a normal vaginal delivery, your baby's head must rotate 180 degrees or all the way around to be able to navigate the birth canal. And their delicate spine, it compresses, it twists, and it bends under immense pressure. Now, studies even show that even in uncomplicated vaginal births, babies experience significant force onto their bodies, but specifically the upper cervical spine. But within assisted deliveries, like when forceps or vacuums are used, the pulling force on your baby's head increases dramatically. Forceps can exert up to 21 pounds per square inch of pulling force directly on an infant's head and neck. That's the same pressure that's used to test car crash safeties. And in C-section deliveries, while avoiding the compression of the birth canal, C-sections involve pulling and twisting of the baby's head and their neck through a relatively small incision. And these babies miss the beneficial compression sequence that actually stimulates the nervous system and clears fluid from the lungs. Now, with inductions and epidurals, both of these increase the likelihood of longer labors, the more interventions, and ultimately the more physical stress that's placed on baby. Now, in the US, 1 in 5 deliveries involve C-sections. Depending on where you look at in Houston, we sit anywhere from 33 to 40% of a C-section rate. But then you add in vacuum extractions and forceps, inductions, and epidurals, and you're looking at the majority of births involving some form of intervention that applies stress onto your baby's nervous system. But here's the most critical part that parents don't understand. All of this force concentrates on the most neurologically sensitive area of the body: your baby's upper neck, brainstem, and their skull or the cranium. This region actually houses the vagus nerve and our spinal cord, but the vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve within the entire body, and it's the primary controller of the parasympathetic rest, digest, and regulate side of our nervous system. Now, when birth trauma creates subluxation, which is the misalignment, the fixation, and the neurological interference in this upper neck area, it disrupts the function of our vagus nerve. And when our vagus nerve is compromised, virtually every major system within your baby's body can be affected. Parents, I want to dive into the signs that you are all told are normal, but are actually the neurological red flags. And here's where I need you to pay very close attention. Because when parents bring their newborn to a pediatrician struggling with constant crying, difficulty latching, reflux, constipation, or terrible sleep, they're told the same thing over and over. It's just colic. It's just reflux. Babies cry. They're going to grow out of it. But here's what that advice misses. These aren't just random baby problems. They're neurological symptoms of a stressed, dysregulated nervous system. So let's break it down with difficulty latching and nursing. This isn't just a tongue tie or a milk supply problem in most cases. It's a neurological problem because the cranial nerves that control sucking, swallowing, and tongue coordination actually originate in the brainstem, which is the exact area most affected by birth trauma. And when there's stress and subluxation in the upper neck, these nerves can't function properly. With colic or excessive crying, the research that's published in the Journal of Manipulative and Physiological Therapeutics found that colicky babies have significantly increased tension within the upper neck. They're not just crying because of gas or an immature digestive system. They're crying because their nervous system is stuck in sympathetic dominance or fight or flight mode, and they literally cannot calm down. When we're talking about reflux and digestive issues, we're going back to our vagus nerve because it quite literally controls the entire digestive tract. And when it's compromised by upper neck or upper cervical subluxation, food doesn't move through the system properly. The sphincters don't close correctly. Babies spit up constantly. They struggle with constipation and show signs of discomfort during and after feeding. Now, going into sleep disturbances. When a nervous system is subluxated and stuck in sympathetic mode, it makes it neurologically impossible for babies to be able to relax into deep and restorative sleep. Now, this is why so many newborns can only sleep when held, when then they wake constantly, or they seem exhausted but can't stay asleep. My favorite things to talk about is head shape, like with torticollis and plagiocephaly, because when birth trauma creates that stress and subluxation, it affects the muscle tone and it restricts normal movement. So then babies favor one side. They develop a flat spot and show limited range of motion. It's not just cosmetic, it's neurological. And here's the part that should terrify every single parent: they don't grow out of it, they grow into bigger and different issues. Now, at Haven Family Chiropractic, we've identified a pattern that we call the perfect storm. It's a series of stressors during critical developmental windows that create long-term neurological dysfunction. But here's how it progresses. It starts with prenatal stress. So the stress load that mom experiences during pregnancy pre-fires and pre-wires the developing nervous system of baby into a locked-in fight or flight state. And then it gets compounded by stress during delivery, with the interventions, with C-sections, with the birth trauma and vagus nerve dysfunction aspects that we've talked about so far. And then we start with early infancy. The colic at 2 months becomes chronic constipation at 6. The latching struggles lead to prolonged bottle feeding and missed oral motor development. The sleep dysfunction all the way through creates a chronically exhausted and dysregulated baby. And then we move into toddlerhood because the constipation doesn't just stop at constipation. It becomes sensory sensitivities at 18 and 24 months. And then those sensory issues become behavioral challenges and emotional dysregulation. And as they continue to move through childhood, the ADHD symptoms emerge around age 5. The anxiety, the emotional regulation problems, and the focus issues start to dominate. And then we have our adolescents, our teens, and us as adults. The ADHD becomes the anxiety, and then it starts to build into chronic health issues, the immune dysfunction, the digestive problems, the academic performance. You see, the nervous system dysfunction that started during birth just manifests differently as the brain develops. That colic that you were told was normal at 2 months, that was the first sign. And if it's not addressed at the root cause level, specifically addressing nervous system dysregulation, it doesn't go away. It just changes form. And this is why waiting for them to grow out of it is just such dangerous advice. Now, here's the good news, because when you address nervous system dysfunction at the root cause level, during the newborn period, when the brain is the most plastic and adaptable, you can prevent this entire cascade. And at Haven Family Chiropractic, we use neurologically focused chiropractic care specifically designed for newborns. And I need to be very clear about what this is and what it isn't. So what we do is provide gentle and specific adjustments using no more pressure than you'd use to test an avocado's ripeness. To be able to utilize this targeted care, almost always focused in on the upper spine, in the brainstem and vagus nerve areas, or even in the skull or the cranium for latch and feeding. But by using the objective assessments called the insight scans, we can measure nervous system function to then create care plans tailored to your baby's unique neurological stress patterns. But what it's not is forceful cracking or twisting. That's sometimes used for adults, absolutely not babies. It's not painful. It's not invasive. We're not addressing the symptom management side because we address the root cause. So I want to show you an example. This is a scan from an infant named Juniper who came to our office struggling with severe constipation, with sleep issues, and mood dysregulation. Now, these scans show subluxation or stress stuck onto the body within the upper neck and the brainstem regions, as well as significant dysfunction in the mid back or the mid thoracic region where the vagus nerve controls digestive function. Now, after completing her care plan with the specific and gentle adjustments, Juniper's parents reported that her digestion was completely restored. She was pooping regularly, sleeping better, and was a much happier, calmer, fully regulated baby. And we didn't give her medication to force bowel movements. We didn't change her formula 10 times. We addressed the root cause, which is nervous system dysfunction, and her body healed. So the question is, when should you get your baby checked? And here's my answer: as soon as possible after birth. I joke with parents all the time that this should be the first place you stop on your way home from the hospital or on your way home from the birth center. That first year of life is the most critical window of neurological development because your baby's brain is forming more than 1 million new neural connections every single second within the first 2 years of life. This is when patterns get established, when foundations get built, and when programming happens. And if birth trauma, stress, and subluxation creates nervous system dysfunction, every day that passes without addressing it means that your baby's brain is developing on a compromised foundation. You can think about it like building a house on a cracked foundation. You can't remodel a house on a cracked foundation and expect it to be stable. You got to fix the foundation first. Your baby's nervous system is that foundation. And here's what makes this even more critical. The earlier you intervene, the faster and more dramatically they respond. Because our newborns are so incredibly resilient. Their nervous systems are adaptable. And when you remove the interference and restore proper function, they respond quickly, often within a couple adjustments. But if you wait, if you follow that wait and see approach, that window closes. The dysfunction becomes established and the compensatory patterns become ingrained. And what could have been resolved in weeks now takes months. So, parents, this is what I want you to hear. If you're struggling with a newborn who won't stop crying, they can't latch, they spit up constantly, or they won't sleep, it's not your fault. And it's not just normal baby stuff. It's a sign that their nervous system is under stress, likely from birth trauma, and they need help regulating. If you're expecting and you want to give your baby the best possible neurological foundation from day one, don't wait until problems develop. Be proactive. Get them checked as soon as they're born. And at Haven Family Chiropractic, right here in Katy, we specialize in neurologically focused chiropractic care for newborns, for infants, and children of all ages and abilities. We use the advanced insight scanning technology to measure exactly where your baby's nervous system is under stress. And then we create personalized care plans to restore that function and regulation. So here's what to do next. Check out the link in our bio. Read the full article as to why your newborn needs to be adjusted right after birth. Call our office, DM us on social, schedule that consultation in the insight scans, and share this video with an expecting or a new parent that you know needs to hear this, because your baby's healing journey starts here. Let's give them the neurological foundation that they deserve.